So I'm going to move around, like I said before, bounce around. Like the ideas in my head are bouncing around. I'm going to bounce around this car and work on little by little. I was thinking about it, and I wanted to kind of visit the headlight bucket and see what kind of problems I'm going to run into here. I made a pattern. I get this little flange bent real quick on my pattern, and I want to fill in behind this headlight to fill in the fender part. So this will be welded to the fender. So when I slide it in, I'll have this hole cut out of this panel. It'll fill in that gap and help fix the grill area. Help finish that edge, because I don't want the grill mesh going all the way behind the headlight. I think it'll just be too fragile, and I don't think it'll work. So I'm going to make this pattern, which I already have. I just simply stuck piece of paper in there and trimmed around it. I want to get back to this flange that is here, and basically weld this panel in like that. Then I'll come back, like I said, and cut out the bucket for the headlight. And I'm not foreseeing the problem with getting the fender reattached. I just don't think it'll be an issue. The only tricky part is going to be up top, where the fender kind of comes out at an angle. It's not completely flush there, which when you bolt it together, it pulls that panel in. So I got to take into account that. But there's still a gap here. So I'm going to have to just take that into account and fill it in. And hopefully it'll all work out. I want to run another bolt in here and just get the fender tight to this panel and see where that lands. See when I pull that in. I don't know if that's going to pull that way, or if it needs a spacing, or if it needs a bushing, or not a bushing, but a shim. When you push on that, it flexes the whole fender and pulls it in. Don't really care too much for that. That's a lot of pull. I'm wondering, this is got a little dent in it. I may need to hammer that this way a little bit and kind of meet it in the middle. So it'll have a little bit of pull, but not a lot. Because when I do that, it actually fixes the gap here between the bumper a little bit better. So I may need a body shim or a washer back there. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out of metal. And I'm going to add to this top flange a little bit, but I like the taper. It works good. I kind of got that taper. I'm just going to add a little bit of meat, maybe another 1/8 of an inch to that there. And then I'll just have the gap here to close in. I'll go ahead and run a bolt in here and fill that gap. What I may do actually is put a washer behind each one. And that way I can if I get a big enough washer, I can have a little bit of a lip there or a shelf, and I can have something to push this up against, and it'll be as flush as I can get, because the metal I'm using is a little bit thicker, which is fine. So when I cut out the center, it won't be this floppy piece of steel. The sheet metal will be, I think it will be too thin, and it'll be prone to bending a little more than the metal I got. I would like to, I'm not sure if I should follow this contour. It's an odd shape. I think a uniform, kind of a slow taper would look a little better. But really, once it's all painted body color, it should disappear. Because this will be body color, that'll be body color, everything behind it. No, actually, no, it wouldn't. I would trim this out and paint that the color of the grill, whether it be black or a silver. So it would kind of blend in. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I think an odd shape it would draw your eye to it. So I'm going to do what I got here out of metal. I'm going to flip it and see if it matches the other side, and then we'll cut some sheet metal and we'll get right back to it. Like I said, I may just tack it in place and see how it fits, and then I'll go ahead and trim out the center first and then tack it in there. Now the other problem I'm running into is if I'd make this hole the same size when I go to adjust the fender, then the bucket, because the bucket protrudes back in there for the headlight, is that going to need to be, this may need to be clearanced a little bit bigger just to allow that to move around. It has some room, but it may not have enough. So that's something to think about too. And I may need to go ahead and account for this piece here and just come up with it since it's on the same plane, and that'll help strengthen that even more. Transferred my paper template that I showed you to steel. I've been grinding on little by little, trying to get it tuned in. And I do need to cut and trim that off a little bit. And I'm going to use this flap, and it needs to bend up a little bit to fill a gap. But all in all, I think this is heading in the right direction that I'm looking at doing. Filling this in. I went ahead and marked on the back side the cutout for the headlight, and I think this will finish this panel up a lot better and cleaner, and help with the final product of the grill looking a lot better. Since I'm changing it up a lot, so I'm gonna cut this out and trim this, cut it, fit it, shape it, and I may tack it. Yeah, I may do that. I need to get a hammer and dolly on this and kind of fold this out flat, so when I pull these together, like I said before, it kind of meets in the middle and doesn't pull the fender all the way that way and lets this come this way a little bit. It may have actually gotten a little warm when I welded right there, but there's a dent right here which is not flat, so this is not completely flat, so when I hammer that out, I should pull that bottom part out as well. And right here is not completely flat, so I need to do a little tuning and with the hammer and dolly on that and get it into shape. But this doesn't actually touch this here. It should it'll kind of float. The only place it's touching is right in the top corner, and when I pull it to the fender, it ain't touching anyway. So those dings and manipulating that metal on the backside doesn't really change what's going on up front. But so I'm just going to tack it for now, and I'll fit everything in and see how I like it. Go from there. Through the magic of camera editing, I went ahead and tripped myself up over my tools. I've got laying all over the place. Went ahead and cut this out, obviously, and fit it in. Went ahead and ground the fender area there. I'm going to go ahead and tack it in place and move on to the other side. Hopefully I can get the other one done today too. It'll be a little quicker because I don't have to think about it too much. I've already got a pattern. So, yep, get her fired up. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and cut the other one first. That way when I fire the welder up, I can go ahead and zap this side too. So let me do that. Rinse and repeat on this guy. I'll have two in just a second. Ready to go. Got my new panel there. Try to go ahead and get it tacked in place. And I'll move to the driver's side and try to get that tacked in place also. And yeah, just trying to get as much done as I can. A little snug right there. Back to that. I'm going to run a saw in there and get that. It is not wanting to come out. Alright, not going to fight with that no more. That works perfect right there. Alright, over here. And we'll get this guy. Kind of aggravated. The regulator on the welder is leaking. I can steadily hear my welding gas coming out of this tip. It's kind of making me antsy and wanting to weld faster, but I need to just slow down and deal with it later. All right, welded, it held it. So I'll finish it up and grind it off camera. You don't want to see me grind. Okay. I want to go ahead and I want to get in here and fix this lip. The factory flange here where the fender folds in and fits up against this panel. I want to get rid of that because I can see it when the final product is going to be shown, I guess you'd call it. Still, obviously, I got a little lip here. I want to fix that and hammer that flat and weld it. But I want to make this lip go away. So what I'm gonna do is come in here with a zip cut and rip down the seam and bring this flush and weld all that. Before I do that, I want to hammer these welds as flat as I can. I mean, it's gonna be very, very hard to get in there because the fender's over here. There's zero room to get in there, so I may just have to take a pair of pliers and just kind of flatten it the best I can. But I want to make this lip go away. And I don't want to just pack mud in there and make it flush because that's a lot of filler. And this panel here seems to be going out at an angle. It's actually going away from me, but I want to bring it in flush, and that'll help eliminate that lip. Then it goes all the way down to here, so it's going to be really difficult to get behind this panel. Originally, I was going to just drill out the spot welds and make a new one, but this thing goes all the way up into here. And starts to really dive down deep right in here. So I'm gonna cut, and I'm gonna cut a little bit here, probably go all the way up to here and cut this away, and then bring it and then tack weld it. And that way it'll have some structure before I go ahead and cut this corner out of it, because it may make the fender just kind of go floppy. Even though this is welded here and here, it probably won't go anywhere, but just to be on the side of caution, I may need to take the fender off to get to it and weld all this up. So probably end up doing that anyway, just to make it easier to get to. Let's see what we can come up with just to get rid of that lip. It's a lot of work, but in the end, I think it'll look a lot better. And I realized also when I was putting this panel in, this fender was pulled in a little bit at the bottom. So it's supposed to go like that. So it's not quite what I was looking for. And I don't know if that headlight ring will cover that up. If it will, that'd be great. But if not, I'm gonna have to add some material in here, and that's just gonna suck and look like crap. But that's what happens when you don't pay attention. So I gotta line these holes back up too, the fender holes. Which is kind of weird because maybe my panel down below is not right, because I had them holes lined up. All but that one down there is lined up. And this is what I'm talking about. The panel that I made here is not quite lining up with the fender. So before I get too deep into that, I want to make sure that I'm in the right track. This could be wrong, because this is a new panel compared to what this is, and this was bolted in. Get some measurements and see about where I'm at and go from there. But there's a few things that I got going on here, and I need to kind of iron them out before I get too deep and weld stuff permanent and this in the wrong position. So we'll get to it. We'll get it fixed up. All right, so I'm still at it, slinging some sparks here. I got this all cut and welded, and it's still got a few little bad spots in it, but that's way better than what it was. So it's not gonna need near as much body filler, but it will need some. You know, that's just the name of the game. I went ahead and gotta get this cleaned up. Gotta get the Dremel in there and get in there, because it's just too tight. What I'm working on now is closing in this gap, and I made a little filler piece here to close in this gap. And turn around there, that'll close that up nice and tidy. And once I get all that welded, the whole headlight surround will be cleaned up like I like it. But this is all exposed, so I wanted to dress it up and clean all this up, and I'll body fill it and paint it, and that way you'll never see all these nasty, ugly factory seams that they just covered up with a piece of aluminum. So same on this side, I'm gonna do that. This one turned out a little better because I guess I wasn't as impatient. I don't know, but no warpage there. Just a little bit on the other side, it's not a big deal. I still gotta do the same thing, just cut it. That's what the seam looks like, where they just covered it up and made it look as best they could. So anyway, we'll get to it. I'm gonna keep cutting. I got some welding to do. I may go ahead and jump to the other side and cut and get it ready for welding. When I fire the welder up, I'll just be able to do it all at one time. All right, so I have pretty well completed the passenger side as far as, you know, welding and flattening out the steel, stuff of that nature. It's going to be pretty much ready for body fill. I went ahead and added this brace in here to kind of keep this from flopping, because it would bend back and forth quite a bit. Originally, that's how they are too. On my wagon, I know it's pretty floppy. If you run into it with no fender on it, it's going to fold in pretty easily. Since I had made, cut away a lot of the structure here, I went ahead and put that back in, and I'm grinding that later. I got the opening for the air cleaner there. That's where the air filter will go. and my little brackets here that's going to hold the hood latches, because there's nothing in the center of the hood anymore to latch down. But dressed up the welds here on this fender, and I'm in the middle of making a pattern so that I can duplicate this on the other fender. I get a piece of this metal cut out so I can finish this. This was just cut out and open and floppy, so I wanted to make sure. I tried to follow this line here best I could. I think it turned out pretty decent. The welds are pretty ugly because there's a couple different layers, a couple different thicknesses of steel, so I had to weld it a little bit different, and it kind of warped a little bit, but that's also me getting it too damn hot. It is what it is. I'm going to mud over this with some of that fiber fill, get it nice and slicked up. It's not a lot of mud, but it is some mud. It is what it is. I'm not a perfect welder or body man. And I'll get some more in here and get it nice and pretty, and get it finished, and it'll look really good. I'm pretty happy with that. And I was also worried when I took the fender off. I wasn't even thinking about it at the time, but I was worried how it would come off with this panel in place. And it didn't change it at all. But, I was thinking about it. This flange was already in here. It was just a little thinner. So that still is the same concept as me filling in the panel. You still have to pull it straight away from the fender to pull it straight out to get it off. So you basically kick the nose out and then pull the fender forward to get it away from the car. So yeah, worked out really good. I'm really happy with it. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this bracket as well on the other side, because like I said, with no support, it's pretty floppy. I thought I moved a little bit more than that, but it still moves a good bit, and there's no need for that. So I'll add a bracket in there and do the same thing as I did on the other side, and we'll get moving on. That will pretty well, I wouldn't say wrap up the front end, but it's really close. Get this other fender set up, and we'll get the one on the driver's side over here finished and caught up with the passenger side, and we'll move on and keep on trucking. Round off and smoothed up to look like one piece. Now, obviously this is under the fender, and that's, like I said yesterday, it's just a brace, kind of keep that from flexing up top, keeps everything lined up. All right, so we got some filler work done. I know I kind of jumped ahead and kind of got in the zone and forgot I needed to film some of this, but all in all, it's really just a bunch of boring metal work as far as grinding and sanding and body filler. So we'll get more of that done. We'll get more sanding done. I'll get this straightened out. I put the fiber filler over all my welds, and then just regular body fill over the regular panels just to get them flat. Not really a whole lot. It's just kind of messy looking because it hasn't been sanded yet. Still waiting on it to cure. Also worked on the fenders. Got both ends of those done in some mud. Fiber fill, just cover up the fiberglass. 90% of that crap's gonna end up on the floor anyway. And we'll go from there. While I got the fenders off, I may go ahead, and I don't know if I've talked about it. I don't know if I've talked about it before, but I want to extend this kick panel out flush with this, and then kind of dive back in to make room for speakers or whatever may be in the future. But I want to go ahead and get the metal work done for it, so that I have that it's all done and stuff like that, obviously. I've seen a few people doing that on various cars, because these kick panels come in and it's really just a waste of space right here. The fender's out here. There's a support piece in here that lands up against this. So there's plenty of room there. This is kind of wasted space. I really wish I would have done it when I built the firewall, but at the time I wasn't really thinking about it. I would have just brought the firewall all the way out and started tapering it, right in there or something. But I don't really think I could have made that whole panel in one piece anyway, so it doesn't really make any difference. Plus, this is kind of kept the structure, the structure of the car there while I did the majority of that work. But I think that's the route I'm going to take. I'm not sure if I'll come all the way out to the edge of this flange. I probably won't. I'll probably just knock it in a little bit, a couple inches, and just bring the curved panel in there and extend the top panel there out flat. I do need to make sure I don't want to hit the fender, obviously. You don't want to do that. But just some room for components, some speakers, or, you know, bigger than a 4-inch speaker, and I don't want to have to drill into this panel and then expose it to the elements. So, you know, this right here is what the kick starts right up against. The inner panel there is just right up against that part. So there's literally no room for speakers other than in the doors. And I don't really care for that look because, for one, in my wagon, my leg blocks the speaker right where it is. So it's kind of useless. But anyway, rambling on. Got a little more metal work to do here now that I see expose some old work that I did when I redid the cowl, and I just want to get all that cleaned up. Some pitting there just from rust. There was a little bit of rust, but for overall, this car was pretty solid. So I want to get all these jams cleaned up, the hinges cleaned up, nice and neat looking, just because when you open the door, you see all that. So I want to make sure all that's nice and presentable. No, it ain't a show car, but it's going to be a pretty hot rod, and that's what I want. So I don't care what it takes. That's what it's going to be. Probably make a pattern of that. I don't think I have any steel. I don't have enough steel to do that. I need to buy another sheet, but it'll really be just pieces and parts of stuff that I'll use. I won't even use the whole sheet, unfortunately. But that's really a wrap. I think, you know, we had a lot of progress. I'm still going to work on getting that instrument panel made, the mock-up in cardboard, because I found a set of gauges that I like, and the tack and the speedometer are available in a 5-inch matching pair, and then you got the 4 other gauges. And I think the dash is proportionately big enough that a 5-inch gauge would look good in there and fit. These instruments are from a whole different company that I wasn't really expecting. But if I do get them, then I'll show them on here, obviously. But I don't want to talk about them right yet because I may go a different path. But I think a traditional style gauge will look better in the car. I don't know about the digital dash. You know, obviously they're nice, but I don't know if it would work in this car. I just don't know. I kind of like the look of the old school round, you know, individual gauges. Nothing wrong with the digital dash, that's for sure, but I don't know if it looks right for me. But anyway, we'll get moving on that. The front end is really coming along nicely, and once I get the fenders back on in place, we'll start lining up some panels and get all this sanded up. We'll line the panels up, and I'll make my way to the doors, and we'll get everything straightened out and lined up, and probably going to start body working here the next month. Really hard and heavy on it. Hopefully that'll start working out, because I'm kind of waiting on parts, you know, gauges. The next thing I buy would be axles for the rear axle, and I need to get another wheel to show that, to put that in place. Speaking of the wheel, I did actually get this wrapped up and finished, and let me move it up top so I can get a better view of it. So I got the wheel body worked and finished. I'm really, really happy with the way it came out. You know, obviously all the little holes that I had to fill in, I did a lot of body work to it, body work to hoop, and painted it. I'm not 100% sure I like the gloss finish. This is actually semi-gloss, but it's hard to tell. It looks gloss to me. But the flat look, I think, and you know, when you put chemicals on your tires, I think this flat paint, because it's just Rust-Oleum type paint, I think it would absorb a lot of that and probably cause spots, and obviously road grime and stuff like that. It's going to get on the wheels, because it's not a automotive, like a high quality automotive finish. I'm not knocking the Rust-Oleum paint, but it's just not what an automotive paint is, in my opinion. As far as sealing it, I'd probably need to put a clear coat on this of some sort to seal that paint, I would think. You know, I'm just talking based on years of my experience as far as with the product, nothing I've looked at as far as research. So, you know, take my word as a grain of salt. But just from me, I think the shiny finish is going to also help protect that paint. But I'll scuff it again and probably put a semi-gloss coating on it. But I think it'll look really cool. I'm going to put the hubcaps, like I've already shown, tuck it in nicely underneath the fender. And these are really, you know, a lot of work has gone into this wheel, and it may end up being the permanent wheel, but in my head, they were the kind of the temporary solution to an expensive problem, because wheels ain't cheap, especially a 10 by whatever. and I may actually be able to go by a deeper offset once I get, if I do order a different wheel in the future, I'll be able to get a different offset because I'm using a spacer to adapt these wheels to the hub of the axle. So I've got that much more room to play with, and I can bring that axle, I can bring the center of that wheel in that much more room and gain more lip out here in the barrel. But I'm pretty happy with that. The end goal is my entire hand, but that's probably more like a 12-inch wide wheel. And I wasn't really thinking about being a 10-inch. There's only so much more where you can go back, but with that spacing, I can gain, you know, another inch and be right close to where my, it'll be right close to where my knuckles are. So I would be pretty happy with that deep set, but I think it looks pretty killer right now compared to what it was. This is a 2-inch wider band on it. You can see there where I banded it. Like I said, came out pretty nice, and just got to find another one, and we'll get all that work done to the next one. Get a matching set, and I'm going to measure for some tires now that I've got one wheel. I can do that, and hopefully get some tires put on those and get this thing down on the ground rolling around. So I got a little sneak peek of the wheel in place. That looks pretty damn cool. I'm going to step back. I know there's a lot of stuff in the way and a lot of distractions, but I think overall that looks pretty damn cool, considering the rest of the car looks like hell. But I think what I'm gonna have to do is right there, I'm gonna have to extend that wheel up, flare it out a little bit, because there ain't no way we'll get a tire on that. It is gonna be right into the fender. Maybe I'll just get away with cutting it right here and bringing it straight down. But I think I may be able to get away with cutting it right here and straightening it out. Maybe I could come in here and, I don't know if a flare would look good. It probably looks stupid. I don't know. I got to come up with something to make it just cut this corner out and move that forward, because there's, you know, a finger length right there worth of room. And I can move that wheel opening forward a little bit, and I think it would look all right. I may not do a whole lot, but there's also a pretty good sized lip right here, probably an inch or so. I could probably trim it, and it'd be nice and tight, but it'd be pretty close if the rear end was to go sideways at all, which it shouldn't, but you know, it's gonna move a little bit. So got some figuring to do there, not a big deal. Just more cutting and grinding and welding. Story of my life. Anyway, I just figured I'd share that little snippet of the wheel in place. Looks cool. I'm pretty happy with that. I like it. So pretty good gears. I'm gonna get a set of posi gears out of an Explorer from the scrapyard, because they come with a posi unit. I may actually see how much a new one costs and go from there, because you know, posi units will wear out over time. And axles, I'll have to order some axles for the rear end. And once I get axles in, I can start working on getting some drive shafts made, and the drivetrain will be complete. So really is close to being drivable. You know, it looks like hell, but drivable is really on the horizon. The wiring is probably 80% done. Other than laying out where I want it exactly and nailing that down, that's really the biggest hurdle for wiring. Just a few more circuits to complete and things that I've added on from the original plan. So things like that'll change, but all in all, I'm pretty happy. And moving forward, that's what progress is all about. Little by little steps, and it's a big pie, so little bite's gonna eat it. So thanks everybody for watching Big Leg Hot Rods. Hope you like and share and subscribe and do all the good stuff that you're supposed to do on YouTube. Appreciate the support, and yeah, appreciate it. See y'all next time.